The Whisper Trail. What stalked me in the Appalachian night. Intro. I still remember the night I began hiking the Whisper Trail. It was early October, 2018, and the fall leaves had just begun to change. Shades of gold and fiery red carpeting the forest floor. I'd heard this section of the Appalachian Trail was scenic and quiet, a perfect escape from everything. I was going alone, no company, no distractions, just me and silence. By mid-afternoon, I'd reached a secluded clearing just south of Devil's Backbone Ridge. I stopped, refilled my water. Everything was peaceful. A faint breeze carried the smell of pine and damp earth. As I continued, I noticed something odd. Small stones laid in a straight line off the main trail, leading behind a dense thicket. I followed. That's when I found the first footprint. It looked human, maybe size 8 or 9. But it was old, deep into the mud. I clicked a photo and moved on, chalking it up to another hiker. But I would live to regret that thought. Part 1. Shadows at Dusk. By 5 p.m., the sky had darkened. I set up camp just off the path under a cluster of hemlocks. I gathered firewood, fueled the flames, and boiled water for dinner. As the light faded, the forest transformed around me, each crack of twig echoing like a gunshot. I settled into my sleeping bag with a mug of coffee, reading a chapter on survival in tough terrain. That's when I first heard it. 3 soft footsteps, crunching leaves, from just 40 feet away. My hearing sharpened. I froze. I grabbed my flashlight and swept the tree line. Nothing. "Hello?" I called quietly. "Is someone there?" No response. My heart hammered, and I told myself it was just an animal, maybe a deer. But nights passed, and the footsteps returned. They circled my tent. Once, I heard a faint whisper, "Stay," just beneath the crackling fire. When I checked the trees the next morning, I saw dozens of stones laid in small lines. Markers? Coats? I couldn't tell. I packed up quickly and resumed hiking south along the ridge. Part 2. The Cabin in the Woods. That evening, I realized I'd lost daylight. Fog rolled in heavy, and I shivered in the chill. My GPS said a ranger cabin was 1.5 miles east, but I'd never seen it. Panic threatened. I stumbled through low brush until I saw a faint glow through trees. Yes, a cabin. It looked abandoned. The door sagged, windows were cracked, and inside, a mess. Empty beer cans, ashtrays overflowing, fragments of photographs. A calendar from 1992 hung on the wall. On the table, a half-eaten sandwich like someone had left hastily. I used a camping lantern to see more. A single coat hung on a nail, its pocket bulging with a photograph. 3 children, smiling near a rustic cabin. I matched the scenery in the photo to the landscape outside. It had to be here. Something felt wrong. I decided to use the cabin to wait out the fog. I closed the door, turned off all lights. Then I heard it. Whispering. Multiple voices. In soft conversation. There were no people here. I edged to the door and looked out. Nothing. Still, I felt someone watching. Stepping outside, the fog closed in like a wet blanket. I walked quickly to the opposite side. I thought I saw figures in hooded clothing disappearing between trees. My flashlight's beam caught glints. Stones laid in bizarre patterns on the forest floor. Terrified, I fled, heading east. In my pack, I didn't notice I'd left the ashes and kid's photo behind. Part 3. Blood. rock and hoofprints. Late that night, I reached a formation known as Blood Rock, a smooth slab projected from the mountain. Campers call it blood because of red stains that appear after rains. I passed it quickly, but peace eluded me. At dawn, I noticed hoofprints. Hard to believe, but there they were. Deep, three-pronged, large, looping around my tent. I'm not a hunter. I freeze when startled. But there was no animal this size, and no wildlife makes prints like that. I packed up and hurried. At the trailhead, I met a ranger, introduced myself, asked if anyone else reported odd prints or fog. He shook his head, except for one guy who came in last year saying he saw a man on all fours, watching him. He added, "These mountains can mess with your mind, but you're safe here." But I wasn't safe. Part 4. Night Screams and Campfire Echoes. I arranged to stay in a rented cabin near Pearisburg. Next morning, I went back to collect my gear, but not everything returned. My clothes smelled of smoke, not from my campfire, and something else. Metallic. I brushed it off, but as night fell, it returned. I heard that whisper again, "Stay." Louder, angrier, and then a scream. High, sharp, like a woman shouting into the night. I didn't scream back. I shut it in my mind. I slept with the windows closed, but at 3 a.m., footsteps again. Something was banging on the door. I hid under the bed, torchlight trembling. Footsteps stopped, heavy breathing, then silence. Next morning the door was scratched, vertical claw-like marks scoring the wood. Part 5. Revelation at Dawn. By week's end, I thought I'd made it. I packed to leave, but I couldn't shake the voice in the prints. In a hotel lobby, I sketched the symbols I'd seen carved at Cabin near Blood Rock, like elaborate runes mixed with footprints. I showed a local folklorist friend, Dr. Green. He gasped. "These are old Appalachian sigils," he said, "used by people in mountain occult circles, tapping into land spirits, night watchers. You never followed the stones as a guide. You disturbed their route." He said hikers ignore them. They mark sacred zones. I realized stones on trail and cabin markers were connecting charging points, remnants of rituals. I'd been inside their ritual field. He helped me erase my trail entries online. I left town immediately. Epilogue. A year later, I still have nightmares. I dreamed of whispers hovering by my bed. The ridges call me sometimes when the wind blows. I can't hike alone anymore. I tell people different names, wear different gear, start before dawn. I never return to Whisper Trail, but I keep photos on my phone, hoofprints, carved sigils, the kids' photo in the cabin, Blood Rock red stains. I know what I heard and saw. And I know some trails want you to stay.